Ohai. The city in the central Lithuania, the administrative center of Kėdainiai district and the Kėdainiai Starostvo. Industrial center and transport hub. It is located near the geographical center of Lithuania, a distance in 139 km from Vilnius and 53 km to the north from Kaunas. For Kėdainiai from the north on the south the Nevėžis River flows, within the city the Nuval, Smilga, Obelis rivers flow into her. The square of the city minus 4.4 km. On a legend came from a name of the rich merchant Kėdainiai. Arrived here from Kurland and founded the small village. In historical sources different versions of the name of the town meet. Kėdainiai, Kėdainiais. The first coat of arms was approved on April 15, 1590 by the King Sigismund III and contained symbolics of the patrimonial coat of arms of the owner Kėdainiai January Kishki. On a blue heraldic board a silver horseshoe with 3 gold crosses, in the center of a horseshoe 2 salmons looking in different directions. On August 24, 1627 the great hetman Lithuanian and the voivode Vilensky Christopher Radziwill, the son-in-law of the former owner of the city, approved the new coat of arms on which heraldic motives of 2 childbirth are combined. Gutson Radziwill. He represents the board divided on diagonal, on a gold half the developed black eagle wing, and on a blue half the black eagle paw keeping in claws a silver horseshoe with 3 gold crosses. This coat of arms is used still, and day is considered on August 24 a city birthday. According to a general census of 2011 the population of the city makes 26648 people. The first mention in written sources, in Herman Wartburgski's Chronicle, belongs to 1372. In 1403 in the neighborhood of Kėdainiai, on the place of the former pagan sanctuary of god Perkūnas, Crusaders built the first Christian temple. From the middle of the 15th century through this settlement of fishermen and farmers there went trade paths from Vilna to Raseiniai and from Kaunas to Šiauliai and Riga. Down the river Nevėžis merchant ships also went to the suburbs Kaunas. There was a pier. In the town merchants often stopped, and near the mouth Smilga the market. The modern old market was based. The history of the town is closely connected with sword history Radziwill. The founder of a dynasty, Ostic, in the middle of the 15th century on the picturesque left coast of Nevėžis built the estate. After appointment of the Prince January Radziwill, great-grandson Ostic, the head of Žemaitija in 1535 Kėdainiai becomes her administrative center. Since 1574 in the town there passed general diets of Žemaitiški boyars. The Magdeburg rights and the coat of arms are provided to the city on April 15, 1590 by the King Sigismund III. Inhabitants of Kėdainiai acquired the right to organize fairs 3 times a year, to organize the Saturday auction, to keep shops, to have standards of weight, length and volume. The stone town hall in Gothic style was soon constructed. The city was operated by the magistrate which is freely elected from among citizens which consisted of 18 people. Void, 3 bailiffs, 4 associated judges, clerk, 5 lavnik, podskarbia, clerk podskarbia, police officer and dean of shops. Strongly I suffered during the fires of 1598 and 1600, but quickly I built up also during government of great hetman Lithuanian and voivodes of Vilensky Christopher Radziwill. 1585-1640. And his son Janusz. 1612-1655. In the city economic and cultural recovery began. At the time in him 10 craft shops worked. Tailors, weavers, shoemakers, skinners, smiths, potters, carpenters, butchers and merchants. The paper mill and one of the first Lithuanian drug stores were open. The gymnasium and printing house were based. August 24, 1627. Christopher Radziwill confirmed the ancient rights of Kėdainiai and approved his new coat of arms in which stamp figures of a sort Radziwill and swords of the gut are combined. In 1627 Janusz Radziwill and the Vilensky Bishop Evstaky Volowicz signed the contract on peaceful coexistence of different religious faiths which recognized equality of Catholics and Calvinists. In the age of Reformation it was the center of Calvinism in Lithuania. In 1629 about 80 families of Lutheran Germans which for 10 years were exempted from taxes lodged in the western suburb. The city was divided into 2 parts. Old Kėdainiai where there lived Calvinists and New Kėdainiai or Januszowa where there lived Lutherans. It was the second case in Lithuania when in one city there lived 2 separate legally recognized communities. In 1652 in the southern part of the city, in Naipova, Janusz Radziwill at the request of the wife Maria Lupul constructed wooden Orthodox Church of Savio, on blood and that in the monastery is founded. Russians usually lodged near the monastery. Besides, in Kėdainiai there were Jewish and Scottish communities until 1658. Before the legislative ban on the settlement. Aryan. Further development of the city was suspended by the Russian-Polish War of 1654-1667. The most part of Lithuania was occupied, and in Kėdainiai the negotiations between Janusz Radziwill and representatives of the Swedish king Carl X Gustaf which ended on August 17, 1655 with a rupture of the union with Poland and the contract on the union of Grand Duchy of Lithuania with Sweden. The Kėdainiai Union were begun. Since 1659 big user Radziwill began to run the city. He vainly tried to revive the edge economy ruined by war. I entered privileges for trade and navigation. I approved new legal norms of management, but the city became empty. At the end of the 17th century there was a strong fire. About 100 houses, gymnasiums and library burned down. In 1701 and 1704 the city was besieged by the Swedish troops. In 1709-1711 in the region plague raged. Only from the middle of the 18th century Kėdainiai began to come to life, the number of inhabitants increased, trade and crafts developed. After the third section of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth all cities of Lithuania lost self-government. In Kėdainiai were appointed the judge and the assessor performing functions of the closed city magistrate. The owner of the city Dominique Jerome Radziwill partially supported city self-government. According to his order it was authorized to citizens to choose 5 people performing administrative functions. In 1811 the city carried over the Count Francis Chopsky. In 1817 according to the decision of district court self-government of the city was abolished again, and the city became the center of the Volist.
During the revolt of 1831 in the neighborhood of the city there was a fierce battle of group of K.
Prisoners with parts of the Russian army. During the revolt of 1863 in the neighborhood of the city, groups of insurgents B. Gluskis A. Mackiewicz K. Siszkiewicz M. Permatovsky A. Chilinga B. Kolyushki worked. After his suppression, Chapsky's estate was confiscated, and he is sent to Siberia. Since 1866 the manor carried over the Count Edward Tottelban. In 1871 through a northern part of the city the railroad Liepāja-Romna was paved. In 1875 the cardboard factory was open. Besides in Kėdainiai the brick and dairy plants, workshops on production of carriages and a piano, several mills worked. In 1890 the tanning factory is open. In 1886 the estate was separated from the city and Kėdainiai received self-government again. At the time the city was famous for the horse fairs.
Also at the end of the 19th century in the Volust began to grow up cucumbers, and since then Kėdainiai gained fame as the cucumber capital of Lithuania.
On February 7, 1919 in the neighborhood of the city there was the first fight of the Lithuanian volunteers with parts of the Red Army. Advance of Bolsheviks to Kaunas was stopped. And into a time of Kėdainiai became the center of the county. The city grew and developed. In 1923 74 15 people, in 1939 86 22 lived there.
Were constructed.
Power plant, bank, hospital, library, through the city the highway Kaunas Panevėžys was laid. On June 14, 1941 several dozens of residents were sent to Siberia. In total from 1940 to 1953 to Siberia 85 citizens were banished.
On August 28, 1941 Nazis and their Lithuanian helpers shot 76 Jews of Kėdainiai.
A retreat of Germans in July 1944. Buildings of a gymnasium, district hospital, bank, the former palace of Counts Tottelbanov, bridges were blown up. After World War II in the neighborhood of the city groups of Forest Brothers of Vicchio, Jungtinskestuccio, Prisikelimo worked. In 1949 the military airfield in which Regiment Po-2 and Regiment P-2 were deployed was constructed. The school with training Russian. High school no. Was open for children of officers. In post-war time of Kėdainiai became the center of the area and I developed as the center of chemical industry. The following enterprises were constructed and put into operation. Plant of electrical accessories. 1958. Factory of biomedicines. 1961. Chemical plant. Modern Lithosa. 1962. Plant of metalwork. 1965. Kėdainiai biochemistry plant. 1971. Sugar plant. 1971. Quickly the number of inhabitants grew. In 1959 there were 10.6 thousand people, in 1970, 19.7 thousand.
In the summer of 1988 in the city there arrived the column of cyclists under the leadership of Rimantas Astrauskas. The beating of Sąjūdis, on which demands about independence of Lithuania were made, was held.
On August 5, 1988 in the city the initiative group of Sąjūdis was created.
Also in the summer Lithuanian Green, under the leadership of Saulius Gricius, carried out a protest action in military airfield.
In the fall of the same year at chemical plant of the city there took place the first Congress of Lithuanian Green. As a result of their requirements, work of an outdated production line of sulfuric acid was stopped. After that in the city the cancer cases of lungs were sharply reduced. In 1991 the plant of electrical accessories was closed. Later in his rooms warehouses of network of retail trade, Northa, were located. In 1993 the aviation regiment was transferred to the city of Shadrinsk. In 2003 the biochemical plant went bankrupt. The economic inefficiency of production was the reason.
Work of the shop on production of fodder yeast was stopped even earlier, in 1992.
Economy. AB Lithosa, mineral fertilizers. Products is exported to EU countries in the CIS. WOB Vasiga, sauces and mayonnaise. WOB progresses, metalwork. AB Denisko sugar Kėdainiai, production of sugar. WOB Naturali Oda, leather products. WOB Kėdainiai Duona, production of bakery products. WOB Medzioplokst, Drevubabatovishi production. WOB Chug, furniture factory. Large oil terminal of WOB Lukoil Baltija. Vikonda concern. WOB Vieda, ice cream. AB Kėdainiai Grūdai, grain compound feeds for the cattle food.
Also in Kėdainiai district there are AB Kreeknavos Agrifirma,
meat products. And WOB Kėdainiai Konservifabrikas, tinned vegetables. Low unemployment rate is characteristic of the city. In 2006 about 4%. In Kėdainiai 4 shops of Maxima network. 2 Maxima 20 supermarkets and 2 Maxima 10 shops. 3 Iki supermarkets, 2 Cento discounters, 3 Northa supermarkets discounters work. Services of accommodation are provided by Gregis Namas and Smilga hotels, guest houses, Sandra and Olorado, and Novus Rex, and Motel of Regain. Also the nightclub of Activity Zone, entertainment center of Vikonda, water entertainments of Smilga works in the city. Transport. Through Kėdainiai there passes the main railway line Vilnius-Šiauliai. It is easy to reach by passenger trains Vilnius, Kaunas, Klaipėda, Šiauliai, Jonava. Kėdainiai district crosses the Viaduct Baltic Highway and several highways of Republican value, therefore on city bus station often wrap intercity buses of such large enterprises of Lithuania as Kotra, Busturas, Panevėžio Autobusai, and others. With their help the easiest to reach to Kaunas, buses go each hour from early morning to late evening. Slightly more rare flights to Panevėžys and Šiauliai. Several times a day buses go to Vilnius, Riga, Ukmergė, Jonava, Panamune, Biržai, Žagarė, Alytus, Druskininkai, Pakruojis.
Suburban Kėdainiai transport is developed badly, buses go only to the most important settlements of times a day and not every day.
It is connected with the competition to the long-distance buses at the same time serving in suburban routes. City passenger traffic is made by Kėdainiai joint stock company, E11 routes, and private share taxis, 2 routes. Kėdainiai regularly updates the park. Buses of Neoplan, Volvo, DAF are operated now. The price of travel by the bus minus 1.70 and 2.00 liters. In the neighborhood of Kėdainiai, the former military airfield is located in Dalkshire, but for transport needs he isn't used. The old city is located in the central part of Kėdainiai, occupies 86 hectares. I was planned and under construction on a sample of the European cities. The historical network of his streets and squares, his ancient buildings remained up to now. It is a town hall, a gymnasium, old drugstore, temples, houses of the Scottish type, floor spaces. In 1969 the old city was recognized as an urbanistic monument of Republican value. Here archaeological excavations are carried out. Januszava. The western part of the city called in honor of Janusz Radziwiłł. It is built up quarters of 9 and 5 floor houses. 1980-1990 of construction. And private houses. Pre-war, post-war, modern. Also around many enterprises of services, industry and shopping centers, the market, bus station, gasoline stations, schools, kindergartens. It is located on the left coast of Nevėžis, to the south from the road on Oristava. It is built generally up with private houses of post-war and pre-war construction. Here several small enterprises and Polytechnical Department of Training Center are located. Babine. The northern part of the city located to Entre Rios. Nouvel and Nevėžis near Kėdainiai Road, Creek Nova. It is divided into 2 parts. Babinev I and Babinev II. By a beautiful pinery. This park and the lake formed on the place of a gravel pit, the popular vacation spot for inhabitants of all of Kėdainiai. Building of the area generally pre-war, post-war and modern private houses. Especially intensive construction went to time of economic recovery of 2005-2008. In Babine the school, shops, forest area are located. In vicinities, collective gardens, the terminal of oil products, a grain elevator, construction and transport enterprises, the railway station. In old times the area was the family estate of Boyazdaksh. In the 16th century one of founders of the Lithuanian literature, Mikalojus Daksha, was born here. Justinava. The former village on the right coast of Nevėžis, to the north of the city, is separated from the residential district Babine by the Babensky pine forest. In Soviet period the dispensary and the housing estate of Kėdainiai was located there. In the last decade inhabitants warm and reconstruct garden lodges to live there all the year round, and gradually Justinava becomes a separate part of the city. Zabalishkis. The industrial part of Kėdainiai located in the southeast of the city near the Obelis River. Here the enterprises of the chemical, food, light, furniture industry and also warehouses of retail chain stores, Norfos Mazmena, a bus fleet bakery are located. Along the area the new city dump and mountains of a garbage of a phosphate from Jesplifosa. About 21 million tons is located. Sites. The Museum of the Kėdainiai region, the oldest museum of local lore of Lithuania, works since 1921, since 2000 is placed in Utrestevairuveni rooms of the former monastery of Carmelites. The collection of the museum contains more than 37,000 exhibits. These are archaeological finds, letters, documents and clothes of the 17th century, furniture from Ahorn from the estate Aptalakis, sacral figurines, including a Gothic sculpture of John the Baptist of the 15th century, the Hall of Crosses of Abogoras of Vinces Sverskis, a numismatical collection, etc. In the museum scientific and educational work is conducted. Since 1992 Memorial Museum of the writer Jozef Pakstelis. It was located in the house of the writer. The exposition told about life and works of the writer, about other Kėdainiai writers. In the museum there took place exhibitions, literary soirees and afternoon snacks. Education was provided. It is closed in December 2009 because of a lack of funds for his contents. The Museum of Wooden Sculptures of 5.
Ulrich organized in 2004 where it is possible to examine more than 40 works of this master of cutting on a tree.
The Center of Multiculturalism in the building of the former synagogue.
His exposition represents the culture of the different people living in Kėdainiai, tells about the Holocaust.
Often hear city folklore. The Museum of a Revolt of 1863 is in Paberzy, on the place of the estate of the Baron Stanislav Shilinga. Exactly here the priest Antanas Mackiewicz created one of the first groups of insurgents. The exposition of the museum tells about the priest's childhood, about his study and work, about the course and suppression of a revolt, life of exiled in Siberia. There are personal belongings of Antanas Mackiewicz, his last letter, documents, weapon of insurgents. Supplement the exposition of the work of the Lithuanian artists and schedules devoted to a revolt of 1863. The Mausoleum of Princes of Radziwiłł is located in vaults of the Kėdainiai Calvinist temple. There are Christopher of Perrin, 1547-1603. Janusz, 1612-1655. Sarcophagi Mikołaja, 1610-1611. Hedgehogs, 1616-1617. Stefan, 1624-1624. In Inamankutsmark's museum, the museum gallery of the Lithuanian artist since 1953 living in the USA, at which her tapestries, cloths are exhibited. There take place exhibitions of the Lithuanian and foreign artists. The city town hall is constructed in 1654 in style de Renaissance, is restored in the 19th century, and presently serves as the cultural center of the city. There take place exhibitions, concerts, various official and cultural actions. Sculptures of the Lithuanian masters are exhibited at a courtyard. The building of a gymnasium, the building in which in the 17th century the city gymnasium was based. Presently in the gymnasium of Šviesioji is located too. The House of Rectors, the building in which there lived the first teachers of a city gymnasium. The house of a bailiff of Jurgis Anderson, the house in the Scottish style, is built in the 17th century. On the first floor shop and a warehouse, on the second premises. St. George's Church. one of the first stone buildings of the city. It is constructed between 1445-1460 of the Torin bricks. In the 16th century to a front facade the low Renaissance bell tower was attached. In the same century it was transferred to Protestants, in the 17th century it is returned to Catholics. At the temple in the 18th century the parish school worked. It was twice reconstructed in the 18th and 19th centuries. The building in Gothic style, rectangular, trio-nefni, with a three-wall apse. Naves 24 meters, are divided by columns, the central nave covers the cross arch, and side, cylindrical. The altar is wooden, it is decorated with sculptures. In furniture of the temple there are a lot of valuable works of art. A bronze bell of the 17th century, a picture. Jesus and John the Forerunners meeting, the 17th century, Virgin Mary's betrothal, the 17th century, Virgin Mary with the baby, the 18th century, Virgin Mary's Rosary, the 18th century, Saint Michael the Archangel the 19th century and Saint Anthony the 19th century. St. Ioseph's Church. The wooden temple in style of National Baroque. Construction was begun in 1703 by monks Carmelites. In 1766 the temple was completely constructed and consecrated in honor of St. Virgin Mary. At the monastery, charitable societies, a shelter, parish school worked. In 1832 the imperial authorities closed the monastery. At the end of the 19th century the temple was renamed into St. Ioseph's Temple. In 1963-1991 the church was closed. The building is crosswise, trio-nefni, with two towers. The apse is three-wall, it is decorated with a small turret. To a presbytery low vestries are attached. Near a church there is a low wooden bell tower. The Temple of Evangelica Reformat. Calvinists. Construction is begun in 1631 on an initiative and at the expense of Christopher Radziwill, and is ended in 1653 by his son Janusz. The temple is built in style the Renaissance, Anthony, rectangular, very spacious with four small turrets and the bell tower. Inside it is trimmed by oak panels, the ambon is decorated with carved Renaissance ornaments. In a vault there is a mausoleum of a sort Radziwill. The Lutheran temple is built in 1664, in it frescoes of the 17th century remained. Near the temple the Invalid German cemetery at which Adam Freitag, 1608-1650. The doctor of philosophy and medicine, the military engineer, the specialist in fortification is buried is located. During the First and Second World Wars buried the died German soldiers here. Complex from two synagogues.
One of them is constructed in the 17th century in Baroque style for one of biggest and known enzymati of Kagel.
The Jewish community. In her the famous Jewish religious thinker Walensky studied Eliach. In the 19th century one more synagogue was constructed.
Near it there is not restored lodge of the ritual butcher which connects to a synagogue and arch with the sundial.
Church of the Transfiguration. It is reconstructed in 1854 on the project of the architect Konikov from the residential stone building presented by the Count Marjan Chapsky. After reconstruction of 1893 I took the Byzantine form. Internal furniture, frescoes of the beginning of the 20th century, several valuable icons. Minaret.
It is constructed by Edward Totleben in 1880 in memory of the Crimean War. This only building such in Lithuania.
It is located on the outskirts Kėdainiai, near the railway station, on the place of the former park of the estate. Now it is started. Education. The Gymnasium of Šveicaria
is located in the downtown in the building of the old gymnasium based by Radzivilami.
Atalino's Gymnasium received the status of a gymnasium in 2010. Is located in 4 comprehensive schools. Jėzuitų School, Mikalojus Sadokshi School, Aušros School, Rito School, 4 kindergartens. Also in the city the faculty of the Connors Board L, Training Center for Adult L, Boarding School for Disabled Children L, Training Center, Musical, Art and Sports Schools, the Russian Sunday School and Public Library of Mikalojus Doksha Works. Massachusetts Media. In the city 2 newspapers are issued. Kėdainiai Mūj and Rinkos Aikščiai. In Kėdainiai and the television of Kėdainiški Edge, transferring own cultural, educational, information transfers, programs created by other regional TV channels and also the program of the Russian television operates on distance of 60 km around them.
Also there is a city news internet portal with an extensive photo gallery.
Sport.
In Kėdainiai the professional basketball club, Nevėžis, acting in the championship of Lithuania is based.
The arena of club is located in Vilnius. Also in the city there is a professional football club, Nevėžis, which plays in the first league of the Lithuanian Football Federation, and 3 amateur. 1971. The basketball player, the champion of Europe of 1997, is awarded the order by the State Award of Lithuania of the Grand Duke Lithuanian Gediminas. Honorable citizens. Milos Česlau. 1911-2004. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.